Let me tell you about a man who knew that. The man who thinks he can and the man who thinks he can't are both usually right. Your mind is a powerful tether. Confucius. Chapter 1. The Ghost's Grip. Your chains, they are invisible, yet they bind you tighter than steel. Understand this. Your past is not merely memory. It is a haunting specter actively shaping your present. Imagine an invisible tether, anchored firmly to your back, pulling you gently but relentlessly towards where you came from. It's not just memory. It's your past self, a ghost with a grip on your present, dictating your steps today. Understood that men are always more prone to believe what they wish rather than what is true. This wishful thinking tells you the past is over. But that is a lie. Right now, you are bleeding potential. Your decisions, your perceived limitations, your very identity are not entirely your own. They are echoes of a person you used to be, a collection of past failures, old comforts, and forgotten loyalties that still demand allegiance. This ghost whispers doubts, reinforces fears, and subtly steers you away from anything that threatens its established order. You make plans, you set ambitious goals, but when the time comes to execute, something pulls you back. It's the comfortable cage of who you were. That version of you made certain choices, held specific grudges, developed deeply ingrained habits. Now, that ghost demands you keep those commitments, even if they no longer serve the person you need to become. Think about the quiet resistance you feel when you try to change. The moment you push against an old habit, a phantom voice tells you this isn't you. It's the echo of past failures, past comforts, past identities you clung to. You flinch, you retreat. This isn't conscious sabotage. It's the ghost of your past self defending its territory. The people around you also reinforce this prison. They know the old you. They expect the old you. When you try to step into something new, their confusion, their subtle disapproval, their very understanding of who you are becomes another invisible chain. They don't want you to change. It disrupts their own comfortable narratives. Here's how you begin to break its hold. You must first see the ghost. Recognize its whispers for what they are, not your true internal voice, but a trauma response, a learned boundary, a projection of an outdated self. This is not about forgetting your past. It's about preventing it from becoming your present. If you announce loudly that you are changing, people will either mock you or wait for you to fail, reinforcing the ghost's power. But if you quietly start acting as the person you intend to be, there's nothing for them to fight against. You simply move. Your actions speak. What Marcus Aurelius understood is that your true power lies only in the present moment, free from the anxieties of the past and the uncertainties of the future. He wrote that a man's life is what his thoughts make of it. He understood that you are not defined by who you were, but by who you choose to be right now. Your thoughts about your past can either shackle you or set you free. But this ghost isn't just a memory. It's a hidden force that actively sabotages your future. There's another invisible prison you've built, brick by brick, without even knowing it. What is it? Chapter 2, The Scars Prison. Your past? A cage. It binds your ambition, dictates your choices, whispers doubt into your very soul. Learn how to dismantle it. The invisible prison is forged from the scars you carry. Every rejection, every failure, every sharp word from your past isn't just a memory. It's a brick in a wall you've unknowingly built around yourself. This wall isn't visible, but its presence is undeniable. It dictates your movements, limits your reach, and whispers cautions that keep you small. Think about the sting of an old betrayal. You might believe you've moved past it, But watch what happens when a new opportunity for intimacy arises. A subtle hesitation, a sudden urge to withdraw, an instinct to protect yourself at all costs. These aren't rational choices. They are the automatic defenses, triggered by an ancient wound, preventing you from embracing the very connections you crave. This is why so many people get stuck in patterns. The entrepreneur who failed once and now refuses to take a calculated risk, preferring the dull certainty of a dead-end job. The artist whose early work was ridiculed, and now their true talent remains hidden, fearing the public eye. They don't see the bars of their own making, only the perceived safety of their self-imposed cage. Sigmund Freud understood that much of our behavior is driven by forces beyond our conscious awareness, by unresolved conflicts buried deep within. What he understood is that your past trauma doesn't just fade, it becomes a silent architect, shaping your present reactions, making you unconsciously repeat the very patterns you wish to escape. It's a loop, a cycle of protection that ultimately starves your potential. Here's how you break free from this scar's prison. You have to identify the specific wound, the exact moment the brick was laid. Was it a public humiliation, a quiet dismissal, a crushing defeat? Pinpoint it, not to wallow, but to understand its current influence. Observe the situations where your default reaction is to retreat, to avoid, to play safe. Then, you must deliberately choose a different response. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about acknowledging its existence while refusing its command. Take a small, calculated risk in the area where you typically recoil. If rejection makes you shut down, intentionally open yourself to a minor, low-stakes social interaction. If failure makes you fear ambition, pursue a small, challenging project that pushes your boundaries. Carl Jung, building on Freud's work, spoke extensively about confronting one's shadow self and integrating painful experiences for holistic growth. He recognized that the unexamined parts of ourselves, our hidden fears, our past hurts, can hold immense power over our lives until we bring them into the light. True strength comes not from erasing these scars, but from understanding them and refusing to let them dictate your future. If you merely complain about your past wounds, you give them fresh air to breathe, reaffirming their power over you. But if you quietly take action, if you deliberately step into the discomfort that your past self recoils from, there is nothing for the prison to hold on to. The walls begin to crumble, not because you forget, but because you choose a new path forward. This isn't about forgetting the past. It's about re-engineering its influence. It's about taking the blueprint of your invisible prison and turning it into a map for escape. But some people don't just build prisons for themselves, they build elaborate disguises. What are these masks? And what are they hiding? Chapter 3. The Golden Cage. Past triumphs, a gilded prison. This is the Golden Cage. We'll explore how your greatest victories can become your most cunning captors, holding you hostage to a glorious yesterday. The most dangerous mask is not one of failure, but of a past victory. This is the Golden Cage. It's built from your greatest hits, your biggest scores, the moments you truly believed you had it all figured out. You built something incredible, achieved a milestone others only dream of, and now that achievement becomes a gilded cage, trapping you in its memory. This cage feels comfortable. It whispers that you've already won, that you don't need to fight anymore. It makes you fear losing what you have more than you desire, gaining something new. You become a curator of your past, instead of an architect of your future, polishing old trophies while the real game moves on without you. Watch what happens when someone's defining moment comes too early. A startup exit at 25, a championship title in high school, a viral hit that made them famous overnight. They live in its shadow, constantly referencing it, trying to recreate its magic, or worse, protecting its legacy at all costs. They become paralyzed by the expectation of repeating that success, or terrified of falling short. Every new venture is measured against that one glorious peak. The fear of tarnishing their perfect record becomes an invisible hand, holding them back from true risk, from genuine evolution. To break free, you must deliberately sever the emotional umbilical cord to that past glory. Look at that success, acknowledge it, then mentally dismantle it. Understand that what worked then, in that specific context, with those specific variables, may not work now. Your past self, basking in that glow, is an anchor. You must be willing to burn the ships behind you, to step into the unknown with the same hunger you had before your first big win. This isn't about disrespecting your accomplishments. It's about making them stepping stones, not monuments where you retire. The goal is always the next summit, not the last one. Most people will build entire identities around their past successes. They will dine out in the stories, demand respect for old battles, and refuse to adapt their methods because it worked before. They become relics, admired for what they were, but irrelevant to what they are becoming. But you understand that true strength comes from constant reinvention. You are not defined by your best moment, but by your willingness to pursue the next one. Let them cling to their golden chains. You are building new roads. Abraham Lincoln once said that the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. What he understood is that clinging to old solutions, no matter how effective they once were, blinds you to the new challenges and opportunities of today. The world moves, and so must your strategies. It's a form of insanity, as Albert Einstein observed, to keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. This isn't just about repetition of actions, it's about repetition of mindset. If your past success dictates your current approach, you are doomed to either stagnate or fail against new variables. The golden cage is insidious because it masquerades as a reward. But there's another kind of self-sabotage, one that appears as a shield against the world. It's the constant need for external validation, turning every move you make into a performance. What is this hunger and who are you really performing for? Chapter 4, The Echo Chamber. Conformity, a pleasant cage. Your closest allies unwittingly forge it. They demand you remain the person they knew, a ghost of your former self, trapped by their convenience. That hunger for external validation leads you straight into the echo chamber. This is where the people closest to you, family, friends, colleagues, mirror back the version of yourself they remember. They hold an image of you, fixed and unyielding, born from your history, your past choices, your old mistakes, even your old triumphs. This isn't always malicious. It's often comfort, a form of relational inertia. They've categorized you. Their expectations, subtle or overt, keep you neatly boxed. You are the funny one, the responsible one, the hothead, the dreamer, the one who always bails them out. Watch what happens when you try to step out of that box. You pivot your career, change your behavior, pursue a new passion. The whispers begin. Are you sure about this? That's not like you. Remember when you tried something similar? They don't see the new you. They project the old you, the one who tried and failed, the one who never followed through. This constant mirroring acts like an invisible barrier, a psychic weight. It pulls you back towards your familiar past self. Every time you attempt to redefine yourself, their collective memory, their shared assumptions act as a drag. It drains your resolve. It saps your energy. It reinforces doubt. The ancient philosopher Socrates saw self-knowledge as the ultimate quest. Yet, a self held hostage by others' projections can never truly be free. Your personal truth becomes obscured by the reflections others cast upon you. And soon, you start believing their version more than your own. Here's how you break free. Dismantle the echo chamber from the inside out. Stop announcing your intentions. Stop seeking approval for your new direction. Your transformation is not a public declaration. It is a quiet, internal shift. that manifest through action, not through words. If you announce your grand plans, people will question them. They will offer unsolicited advice, rooted in their perception of your past limitations. They will unwittingly set traps of expectation, waiting for you to stumble, eager to confirm their long-held view of who you are. But if you quietly become, if you simply embody the new you, without fanfare, without explanation, there's nothing for them to push against, no debate, no argument. Just the undeniable reality of your changed presence, a new anchor point they eventually must accept. Confucius, the great Chinese philosopher, taught that the noble person acts before speaking, and afterwards speaks according to their actions. He understood that true character is forged in silent execution, not in loud pronouncements of intent. Let your consistency be the only argument you present. They will try to lure you back to the old scripts, to the old roles. They will test your boundaries. They will bring up old memories, old stories, old inside jokes, designed to pull you into familiar patterns. Do not engage. Do not defend. Simply continue to be. Breaking free from the echo chamber is just one battle in the war against your past self. Because even when you quiet the external noise, another insidious force binds you, one that lives deep within your own mind. It's the invisible chains of shame and guilt, the burdens of your own past mistakes. What are these chains, and how do they keep you from stepping into your true power? Chapter 5, The Self-Fulfilling Prophecy. Your own chains, we become the prophecies whispered in our minds. Now let us dissect how these self-made prisons are built, and more importantly, how they can be shattered. These chains are not steel. They are forged from stories you tell yourself, a constant poison, the self-fulfilling prophecy. You carry a map of who you believe you are, drawn from every past mistake, every perceived failure. This map dictates your movements, limits your options, becomes the terrain of your life, often a prison. You don't just observe your past, you actively recreate it. Your mind seeks evidence to validate its script. Believe you are unlucky? You filter wins, amplify losses? Not smart enough? You avoid challenges, dismiss achievements, ensuring you never test that limit. This isn't belief. It's active construction of your reality. Watch what happens when you tell yourself you are awkward or bad with money. You manifest those behaviors. You avoid eye contact, mumble, or let opportunities slip, all to prove the narrative correct. Others see only the performance you deliver, dictated by a past you cling to like a blanket. Here's how to break this cycle. First, recognize your identity is not fixed. It is a story, a collection of memories and interpretations you chose to assemble. This story is not the truth. It is a truth, one you authored and can rewrite. When an old limitation whispers, ask, is this a fact or a past decision about yourself? Next, dissect the story's foundational moments. Identify specific past events that convinced you of this limitation. A failure, a remark, a pattern. Reinterpret them not as weakness, but as lessons. You endured, you survived. That experience built resilience, not eternal flaw. Sever the emotional grip old memories hold over your present. Plato, in his allegory of the cave, showed prisoners mistaking shadows for reality. What he understood is that your self-imposed limitations are just shadows on the wall, projections of past events, not your true substance. You are not trapped by circumstances, but by the interpretation you choose, the stories you refuse to let go from your mind. Announce your new identity. I am no longer X, and you invite scrutiny. People will test you, looking for old patterns, waiting for you to flinch. They invested in the old you. Your transformation threatens their static realities. Do not give them that opening. But if you quietly, methodically, methodically embody the new you, without fanfare, there is nothing to fight. You simply are. Your actions dictate your identity. Consistent behavior dismantles their outdated perception. They will adjust or be left clinging to a ghost you no longer inhabit. Let your new self emerge through subtle, undeniable shifts, not declarations. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of overcoming oneself, transcending limitations of history and habit. He understood that your past identity is a heavy chain unless you actively forge a new one, breaking free from the person you were to become the person you were to become the person you must be. You are not bound to the self you built yesterday, only by the self you refuse to dismantle today. The future is not predetermined. It is a canvas you paint with every choice, every belief you adopt or discard. Your past self, with its wounds and limitations, only holds you hostage if you give it power, believe its lies. You have the choice right now to starve that old narrative, cut its oxygen, refuse its demands. Breaking free from these self-fulfilling prophecies is one step. Once you dismantle the old, a void appears. Nature abhors a vacuum. So, what do you fill it with? How do you strategically build a new self, brick by brick, belief by belief, into the formidable presence you are meant to be? Chapter 6, The Anchors of Yesterday. Anchors, they bind us, not just to old beliefs, but to the very treasures we gathered. Tonight we expose these weights and plot their severing. Many believe they are building a new self, brick by brick, belief by belief, into the formidable presence they are meant to be. But often, they are merely accumulating, and that accumulation becomes an anchor, a dead weight, dragging them back to the past they claim to have left behind. The true prison isn't just your past self's limiting beliefs. It's the material and social baggage you acquired because of that past self, the very things you believed would make you successful or comfortable. These are the anchors of yesterday, the expensive house bought for an old image, the high stature but soul-crushing job, the social circle that only knows the old you. These are not assets. They are chains, forged from your own desires and the expectations of a self you no longer are. You become paralyzed, unable to move forward, because the thought of losing your perceived status, your comfort, your financial cushion freezes you in place. You stay in the gilded cage, resentful, slowly dying inside, because the cost of freedom feels too high, too uncertain. Watch what happens when someone builds a life around an image, a persona, a particular identity. They acquire objects, relationships, even habits that cement that image, that confirm to the world who they are. Then, when the internal shift begins, when they realize that past self is a lie, they cannot move. Their possessions, their reputation, their entire social structure screams at them to stay put. The inertia, the fear of change, is crushing. The only way out is radical detachment. It means having the courage to shed, to sell the house, quit the job, prune the relationships, even give away the clothes that belong to the old you. This is about making yourself light, agile, ready to move without the dead weight of yesterday's triumphs and comforts. It is a strategic divestment of everything that binds you to a past self that no longer serves your true trajectory. If you announce your plans to shed your old life, people will panic. They will try to hold you back, project their fears onto you, brand you as erratic or foolish. They have a vested interest in the old you, the predictable you, the one that made them feel comfortable. But if you quietly divest, if you subtly shift your environment, your routines, your network, there is nothing for them to grab onto. Your transformation becomes an undeniable reality. Not a debate, not a debate, not a negotiation. As the great Stoic philosopher Seneca understood, it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. What he knew is that true wealth is not about what you own, but about how little you need to be free. Possessions become masters, not servants. When you fear their loss more than you value your own growth, your own potential for change, you trade true freedom for gilded stability. Leonardo da Vinci, the master of invention and constant reinvention, once observed that water is the driving force of all nature. He understood that, like water, you must constantly flow, adapt, shed the old to become new. Stagnation, holding on to the old form, leads to decay. True mastery is the willingness to abandon what no longer serves the evolving self, to let go of the rigid structures and ideas that prevent your continuous motion. These anchors of yesterday are powerful, but there's an even more insidious trap, a subtler chain. One that lies not in what you have, but in what you have, but in what you think you are deep within the hidden corners of your own mind. What is this hidden trap, and how does it quietly sabotage your future? Chapter 7. The Unseen Threads. Your past. A cage. Unseen threads, they bind you, demanding a price. This chapter reveals how these lingering shadows drain your power, stopping you from seizing tomorrow. The hidden trap is the unseen threads of your past. Unresolved conflicts, unfulfilled dreams, lingering regrets that cling to you like shadows. These are not mere memories. They are active processes, running in your mind's background, consuming vital resources. They are the open loops, the unfinished business demanding attention, pulling you back to yesterday. Every single one of these threads acts as a drain. They siphon your energy, fragment your focus, and prevent full engagement with the present. You cannot truly step into new opportunities when a part of your consciousness replays old arguments, mourns lost chances, or strategizes over battles that ended years ago. This internal bleed keeps you weak, leaving less power for what matters now. Think about the person carrying a past betrayal into every new relationship, always expecting the same wound, or the one whose ambition for a new project is undercut by the memory of a previous public failure. These are ingrained patterns, trauma responses, dictating behavior, limiting potential. They wait for you to flinch, to hesitate, to repeat the old script. Watch what happens when someone tries to build a new life while still mentally tethered to an old one. They might move continents, change jobs, even alter their appearance, but the old self remains. Emotional baggage, unreleased grudges, and unresolved what-ifs manifest as anxiety, self-sabotage, and inability to progress. Their future is held hostage by their history. Here's how you sever these threads. You must confront them, not with emotion, but with cold, clinical analysis. Identify each unresolved conflict, each unfulfilled aspiration, each regret. Do not suppress them. Shine a harsh light. Ask yourself, is this situation truly unresolved, or my refusal to accept an outcome? Have I outgrown this dream and failed to acknowledge that change? For those threads that can be resolved, take decisive action. This might mean a final, dispassionate conversation, a formal apology, or a clear declaration of closure to yourself. For those that cannot be changed, perform a ritual of release. Accept the past exactly as it was, without judgment or hope for an alternate reality. Cut the emotional cord. Let the past remain past. Martin Luther King Jr. understood the power of facing difficult truths for true liberation. He stated, "The time is always right to do what is right." This isn't just about moral rectitude, but about confronting the internal injustices you inflict by allowing old wounds to fester. The right thing here is to acknowledge your past truth, however uncomfortable, to free your present. Most people ignore these threads, hoping they will simply fade. They bury regrets, rationalize unfinished business, and pretend their past is irrelevant. This is weakness. The threads don't disappear. They simply become invisible, coiling tighter in the dark, silently draining your resilience. They become the source of your vague unease, your lack of clarity. But the master strategist actively seeks out these unseen threads. They understand a clean slate is not given. It is earned through rigorous self-auditing and deliberate mental hygiene. They recognize every unresolved issue is a potential point of future vulnerability, a weakness exploitable by others or, more dangerously, by their own unconscious patterns. They seal the leaks. Nelson Mandela, after decades of imprisonment, grasped the necessity of releasing the past's hold for true freedom. Chapter 8. Future's Mirror. The future's mirror, a dangerous illusion. Your past, a cruel cartographer, maps only old scars onto new landscapes. Learn how this deception cripples your power. Your past self does not merely anchor you, it actively distorts your future, projecting its old fears onto new horizons. This is the trap of the future's mirror, where every potential opportunity, every new relationship, becomes filtered through the lens of old betrayals and past failures. You approach a fresh start, but your mind is already showing you reruns of every time you stumbled, every promise that broke. This relentless projection destroys your potential before it even has a chance to form. Your subconscious, scarred by old wounds, scans new situations not for possibility, but for patterns of past pain. It anticipates rejection, where there is only curiosity, assumes betrayal from honest intent, and sees threat in neutrality. This preemptive defense mechanism causes you to subtly withdraw, to self-sabotage, or to provoke the very outcomes you fear, all because you are reacting to a ghost, not a present reality. Watch what happens when you enter a new negotiation after a past business deal went south. Every polite question feels like a probing attack. Every delay seems like a manipulative tactic. You see a trap in every handshake, a lie in every smile, because your past self is whispering warnings, blinding you to the actual data. You leave money on the table or walk away from a fair deal, convinced you narrowly avoided disaster, when in truth you just created one. Here's how you disarm this mirror. You must recognize that a new situation is a new data set, not a continuation of an old algorithm. Consciously observe your initial emotional response. Is it based on the facts in front of you? Or is it a familiar echo from an old event? Separate the present from the past by creating a mental firewall. Treat every new person, every new venture, as if it were the very first time you've encountered such a thing. Fools announce their past traumas, hoping for sympathy or understanding, thus inviting others to walk on eggshells around their projected sensitivities, or worse, to exploit them. They wear their history as armor, which only traps them. But if you quietly acknowledge your past, without letting it dictate your present actions, there's nothing for others to exploit and nothing to hold you back. You become unpredictable, free from the chains of your own expectations. Winston Churchill, a man who saw both triumph and profound failure, understood that a pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. What he understood is that your outlook is a choice, not a predetermined fate. To project past failures onto future opportunities is the ultimate form of pessimism, actively ensuring you repeat the cycles you claim to despise. Aristotle taught that the only way to learn is through observation. What he understood is that genuine understanding comes from analyzing what is, not what was. You must observe the current reality without the colored glasses of your old experiences. Stop trying to fit new situations into old frameworks. Your past self's fears are not prophecies, they are just memories. This intentional separation allows you to engage with the world as it is, not as your history dictates it should be. It grants you the clarity to see actual threats from imagined ones. This makes you sharper, more adaptable, and ultimately more dangerous to anyone who might try to predict your moves based on your biography. But disarming the future's mirror is only one layer of defense. There is another, more insidious force at play, one that actively uses your deepest convictions against you. What is it? Chapter 9. Your new architect. Break free. You are a prisoner in the fortress of your own making. It's time to rebuild, to become the architect of your own true power. The insidious force is the story you tell yourself, the identity you've constructed from your past wounds and triumphs. This is the identity cage, built from the bricks of your own history. It keeps you predictable. It pins you down. You believe you are defined by what you were, by the labels placed on you, by the mistakes you made. Every time you declare, "I am this kind of person," you seal off entire paths. You refuse to adapt, to grow beyond a self that no longer serves you. This is how you self-sabotage without even knowing it. Think about the person who clings to an old title, a past success, or a devastating failure. They act from a script written by a version of themselves that no longer exists. They make decisions based on who they were, not who they could be. They become a ghost, haunting their own potential. Here's how you break the cage. You recognize the stories you tell yourself. You question their truth. You rip apart the comfortable lies that define you. You strip away the identity layers, one by one, until only the core capacity for action remains. Lao Tzu once wrote, "To know that you do not know is best. To think you know when you do not know is a disease." What he understood is that rigid certainty about who you are, especially based on your past, blinds you to new realities. It makes you sick. It prevents true mastery. If you loudly announce your new identity, people will wait for you to fail, to revert. They will test your resolve. But if you quietly shed the old skin, if you simply become the new architect of your existence, there is nothing for them to fight against. There is nothing to prove. Sun Tzu taught that formlessness is the ultimate strategy. He knew that when your enemy cannot determine your form, cannot predict your moves, they cannot effectively strike. This applies to yourself. When your past cannot define your present, when your identity is fluid, you are unassailable. You have learned to plug the leaks, to seal the drains, to disarm the future's mirror. You understand that your emotional attachments are simply projections, shadows of old wounds. Now, you must integrate the final piece, the ruthless rejection of any identity that holds you back. Your past self is a hostage taker. It demands loyalty. It uses guilt and comfort to keep you small. It whispers justifications for your stagnation, but you are not obligated to honor its terms. You are not a victim of your own biography. You are the architect. You draw the blueprints. You lay the foundations. You decide what gets built and what gets torn down. This is not about forgetting who you were, but about refusing to be confined by it. It is about total control over your present trajectory. Recognize the hostage. Dismantle the cage. Silence the whispers. Walk away from the person you were and build the weapon you will be. There is no turning back.